The bum, baby. The bums, baby. Pour a cup, take a break, settle down and join us on a whim. Gentle thoughts, honest talks, it's time for a sip and stim.
Welcome to Sip and Stim, where parenting on the spectrum pairs best with caffeine, coping skills, and stims. Today, we sadly are missing our dear Kate. She's not feeling well today, so we're going to carry on and have this very important conversation with my friend Michelle today. So we miss you, Kate. We hope you're feeling better, and we look forward to having her on episode 2 of season 2. So we're very excited to have you guys joining us for season 2 of Sip and Stim. We'll be spending the next 14 weeks growing together in this journey of autism. So we hope that you'll join us for this season. Today, we actually have my friend Michelle. Michelle's going to share how she learned to become her son's biggest advocate in a world that she never expected she would have to navigate. So, I guess, Michelle and I are friends. We met at church. And I don't know, how long have we known each other, Michelle? Maybe like a year, two? I don't even
Yeah,
know.
I'd say about that. Yeah.
Okay. And I've actually had the privilege of getting to know her son first in one of the classrooms at our church. We have a special needs classroom. And that's how I met Michelle. So Michelle, would you mind just telling us a little bit about yourself, your family, your son, Sal?
Sure. I am in my 40s and I have a 9.5-year-old son who is on the spectrum. And I also have a 6-year-old. She just turned 6. And then my husband as well. We're both in our 40s and we are new to public school, but that is our new journey. And it has significantly impacted our family, which you will learn about today.
So I know that when I spoke to you about coming on our podcast, which you were very excited to do, and you felt very grateful, but I, in return, was really grateful to have you join because I've learned a lot from you and your parenting experience. You were sharing about kind of how your journey ended up looking suddenly different than what you thought it was going to be. I know that you shared this poem that kind of like resonated very strongly with you. Can you share a little bit about that? Like, what happened when the parenting journey you imagined suddenly began to look completely different than what you anticipated?
Sure. Would you like me to read the poem first?
I think that'd be great. I think it's a great poem.
Okay. It is called Welcome to Holland by Emily Perl Kingsley. And I am often asked to describe the experience of raising a child with a disability and to try to help people who have not shared that unique experience to understand it, to imagine how it would feel. It's like this. When you're going to have a baby, it's like planning a fabulous vacation trip to Italy. You buy a bunch of guidebooks and make your wonderful plans. The Colosseum, the Michelangelo, David, the gondolas, and Venice. You may learn some handy phrases in Italian. It's all very exciting. After months of eager anticipation, the day finally arrives. You pack your bags and off you go. Several hours later, the plane lands and the flight attendant comes in and says, "Welcome to Holland." Holland, you say? What do you mean Holland? I signed up for Italy. I'm supposed to be in Italy. All my life, I've dreamed of going to Italy. But there's been a change in the flight plan. They've landed in Holland, and there you must stay. The first thing is that they haven't taken you to a horrible, disgusting, filthy place full of pestilence, famine, and disease. It's just a different place. So you must go out and buy new books, and you must learn a new language. And you will meet a whole new group of people you would never have met. It's just a different place. It's slower paced than Italy, less flashy than Italy. But after you've been there for a while, you catch your breath and you look around and you begin to notice that Holland has windmills and Holland has tulips. Holland even has Rembrandts. But everyone you know is busy coming and going from Italy, and they're all bragging about what a wonderful time they had there. And for the rest of your life, you will say, yes, that's where I was supposed to go. That's what I had planned. And the pain of that will never, ever, ever go away, because the loss of that dream is a very, very significant loss. But if you spend your life mourning the fact that you didn't get to Italy, you may never be free to enjoy the very special, very lovely things about Holland. So basically this resonates with me because not only am I Italian, and actually my parents just went there a month or so ago to see our ancestors and extended family, but I always wanted to be a mom my whole life. That's what everyone would ask me, what do I want to be when I grow up? And I'd say a mom. And when I turned 13, I did a babysitter's course at the library. And I would go to moms in the neighborhood and I'd be like, can I just watch your kids? And they were so kind, and they were just like, sure, you can come over and watch the kids while I'm doing the dishes or laundry. And they pay me $5. And I thought I was like an official babysitter. They had never left the house, but I'm sure they appreciated me. And so it was this level of slowly leveling up. As I got older, I was the babysitter, and of course the parents were away working, and it was in the summertime when it was in between school. And then when I was in college, I actually became a nanny. And when I had finally gotten pregnant years and years later, I was a lot older with my son. I was 31, but I was happy about it. I felt like I got to live a good chunk of life. I was very prepared as a mom, as maybe other people might not have been. I was not scared at all. I was excited, but it was not where I landed up to be. So when my son was a baby, we had a wonderful relationship, and he was an easy baby. My husband and I often think about those times when he was just so little, and I actually used to wear him a lot, and we would just go everywhere, and he was kind of just an extra appendage at that point. I wore him in a ring sling, and we always just went everywhere. And so it was basically when he turned 18 months that things changed forever. And it was a matter of, at first, I thought it was just an early terrible twos, as they say. But that is when I realized I'd end up in Holland. And it was just something that we couldn't plan for.
So he was pretty typically developing until he was 18 months, you said? And what kind of signs were you seeing?
Basically, not the typical signs that you would think of, in this field or this scenario. Is the typical ones are beating his head up against the wall, or flapping his hands, or not looking when he's being called to or acknowledged. It was not being able to handle social situations, melting down in stores, not understanding what's going on. A lot of it was social, but then a lot of it was not really being able to communicate, because he wasn't actually verbal for a very, very long time. And so as I put it now, we were playing charades all day. He did a lot of gesturing. He understood receptive language. He just didn't have expressive language. So around 2 is when he should have been talking. And we had a lot of our friends that would say, oh my gosh, he's not autistic. He just hasn't talked yet. And so they would say, over time, oh, he'll just wind up talking one day. And basically around 3, right before he turned 3, we got him evaluated. And they originally said it was speech apraxia. And so again, we just followed that path of, okay, maybe he's just really introverted, and maybe he just isn't talking yet. And then as he got older, the symptoms got more apparent.
So I believe, was it about a year ago that I think Sal received his actual autism diagnosis?
Yes, it was September of 25. Yeah.
Okay. And Sal is what, 10 now?
He's going to be 10 in December.
Okay. And did you think he had autism before you received the diagnosis, or were you kind of like just assuming, okay, it's more of a speech delay? I know there's like behavioral concerns in terms of having that social anxiety. What were you kind of thinking was going on with him before he got his diagnosis?
I think a lot of it was we were just really trying to not basically put him in a box or label him. We wanted to kind of just see how things went, see how he grew, and maybe again, like everybody would say, oh, it's just speech delay because he understands us. It's very clear he understands. And I thought maybe, like I said, he was just introverted or had anxiety issues. And again, never really thought it was this term. And it was more or less of us just trying to not, assume. We wanted to kind of like let him grow up and kind of see how things went. Maybe he'd grow out of these symptoms, that kind of thing. And then we eventually got him involved in the school system with an IEP, but it was when he was still younger and not school age yet. And that was also speech related. And then we even tried horse therapy, where, they say if you ride a horse, it opens up both sides of the brain. And I had always thought, okay, maybe his creative side was more, working, and then the intellectual side wasn't. So let's open up both sides by him riding a horse. But he also really has a lot of anxiety over animals. And it was about 3 months and he would not get on the horse. Obviously, horses are massive animals. So I understood. I just wanted to say I tried everything, and we tried all, different avenues. And then we actually, through our church, had a retired speech pathologist work with him, again, for 3 months. And it's kind of when it all kind of culminated into us realizing, okay, it's not just speech. He's not willing to work with her even after an hour of being there and weekly. And she was very, very kind and gentle, but said just very bluntly, I don't think it's just speech. And I do think that it's behavioral. And she had come from the school system. And so she knew that there were services that he would be able to receive and that we would really benefit from putting him in school. And at the time I had been trying to homeschool him. And again, the symptoms were showing up where he was fighting me to do school at home. And we really weren't getting anywhere with that either. And so as humbling of a journey as this was, I really felt like God was telling us like this was the path forward. It was the only door we had not opened. And basically we were just trying to wrap the mold around him instead of putting him in, a situation where he would have to fit into the mold given to him. But, it was one of those things where we just had to say, okay, we trust you, Lord. We had peace about it, my husband and I both. And after praying about it, it was kind of just very clear where God was guiding us. So.
Yeah, I know that was a big deal for you because I too am a homeschool mom, and I think I may have shared that before on this podcast, and you know that very much, Michelle. So I know it's a really big deal for you to decide, okay, we're going to do public school. And you're a prime example of where that is the right choice for your child. Because, children learn all different ways. But I do believe, along with you, that public school really is what Sal needs right now. So on that token, so you've really become a really strong advocate for Sal, I said Al, for Sal. And how did you learn to become your son's biggest advocate?
Well, it was, again, very, God led. It was this random situation where I was sharing with a friend from our church that we were really struggling with Salinger going into school. He had already struggled in the very beginning with the idea of going in. So like in the very beginning, I had to actually for 3 months go in every day with him and sit with him in the room. And it was only for an hour. They had really kind of made successful accommodations for him that made it easy for him to go in eventually. And it was because I was going that he was able to accept this new transition. But even while I was there, he was struggling with going every day, wanting to stay. And then, of course, they were phasing me out by the end of the 3 months where I was out in my car. And he was, again, not happy with that, but he was, for the most part, tolerating it. And then once the new school year started, it was this level of, okay, we're starting fresh. Mom is not going to be coming. And I dropped him off. And actually, he really fell in love with at least 2 of his teachers. I'd say, if not all 3. And they were there that first day, and they, accepted him at the drop-off line, and it was great. But then over time, he really, really struggled. It was the consistency that he just didn't want to give into. And so it was this level of, I'm starting to see like him fighting this, but then he would acclimate for a little bit, and then there would be a break, like a holiday break. Well, then he would have to start over again, and he would struggle with that break. And then we would get acclimated again, and then there would be another break. Well, over time, this started to wear down on him, and it was wearing on us as parents. And then finally, it was this culmination of the mandatory state testing and him also just getting back from spring break. And so he was already struggling with spring break. Then they introduced, shortly after that, the state testing. And I just was so frustrated with how the year had went. I had had high hopes and good expectations. I saw the school. I trusted what they were doing. I've met the teachers. I'd seen the routine every day. I felt comfortable with him being there. But he just started melting down more and more as the year went on. And what it started to show, which I wasn't aware of yet, was the successful accommodations that were set up in the beginning were slowly being phased out. And that is why he was struggling. And so anyway, long story short, I was sharing with a friend from church, and she was well-versed in IEP rights and law and had been doing this in her previous career before being a mother. And basically it was this level of like, I didn't know to like see it through this lens, but she kind of like showed me, okay, they should be doing a lot more. You need to fight for him. You need to be his advocate. And as soon as she told me, it was almost like God had put me in this hibernation phase of the beginning of the school year, because I'm a mama bear and I would have fought for him from day one. But what it was is I needed to allow time to go by to have proof and show what was actually going on. If I had fought, with guns a-blazing, arms going, it wouldn't have mattered, because they would have said, well, we need to see if this works or not. And so really it was ironic. It was 3/4 of the way into the school year as, I had this conversation, which I do believe was, divinely appointed, that it opened up my eyes. The rose-colored glasses came off. As much as I adored what was going on in the teachers, I had seen that was not was actually going on anymore. And then it connected with his behavior and his meltdowns in the morning and at night. And my husband and I both did everything we could to get him to go to school. And we would, from anywhere from 15 minutes to an hour and a half, he would fight to go in the building. And it was just exhausting. And so it was this level of, this is not how this is supposed to go. I've been very patient. I've been very understanding, but now things are going to have to change, and I'm going to need to get well-versed in what's actually happening and what our rights are and what the law is and what I'm allowed to do. And so again, reaching out to Toni, it was this level of, okay, let me rally the troops of anybody I know that knows this scenario and can help me and can walk with me and guide me. And so I had reached out to a bunch of people, including the People's Place of Maryland, which is a fantastic resource. I cannot sing their praises enough. I, again, divinely appointed, got a rep that was a former educator. She was, and still to this day is amazing. She has been so, so helpful with helping me kind of catch up to what I need to know, what's available to me, what are, the things that I need to do future-wise. She would even do phone calls with me and meet for the meetings. I didn't know that I was allowed to call emergency IEP meetings. And once I found that information out, man, I was calling every meeting I could. And I was like, look, I care about my son. I had good relationships with the school and the teachers, but at some point I had to choose my son over being their friend. And it was this level of, I need to do what I have to do for my family. And it was very awkward, and it still to this day is tense. Even though I have, nothing but love for them, it was just this very hard choice to have to say, okay, even though it's going to be awkward, even though it's not going to be fun, my son deserves this advocacy, and I am his expert because I not only birthed him, but I know him. Like, he is someone that actually has separation anxiety to this day because he knows I'm the only one that understands him. I'm the only one that can advocate for him, and I'm the only one that can calm him down. And so this is why he struggles with school, because he doesn't want to be away from me. And so I had to even humble myself, because this was a really hard journey for me to be like, well, wait a minute, God gave him to me, and I'm supposed to be the one to care for him, educate him, lead him in this world. And yet it was this level of like, oh, okay, not for me, maybe other people, but not for me, because I'm not, educated in special education or OT or speech. I have a psychology degree, but I don't have all these other degrees, and I don't know how to school my son the best. And I already tried that, and he wouldn't listen to me, and he didn't want to work with me. And so it was this just really surrendering season of like, okay, I'm not going to pull him out of the school, even though I want to. I think the Lord knew again that I had to go down that path to know that homeschool is not for us, or he would have already been homeschooled again. And it was this level of, okay, how can I be his best advocate, but also, gain as much information and support as possible. And I really, truly believe that God put person after person in my pathway every single day for weeks before this initial emergency meeting that I called after he started really kind of regressing severely. And basically, it's been a path that has really opened up my eyes to what is a passion for me, and what I feel God made me to do, which is to be not only a mama bear, but an advocate for others one day. And I've been feeling this call to fight for other families, because this is a very vulnerable and intimidating place to be. And if I can further my education, further my advocacy, rights and law education, I would really like to help others. And I would love to just sit and be alongside other people, because this has just been such a hard journey. And I want to say thank you to Toni and my BCBA that we work with. I have an ABA therapist in our home, and the BCBA as well has been helping, and she has been amazing. So has Toni, and it's been so helpful to have not only physical people with me at the table, but also just the idea that I'm not alone in this, and that there are people that know what to do and have come alongside and been willing to just be with us and walk this path with us in this journey. And that's just a priceless and valuable thing. And so I want to give back and pay it forward, because it's been given to me and I don't feel like I deserve it. So I just want to say thank you.
Well, absolutely, you're welcome. I mean, it's been a learning experience for me. So I know you and I are friends, Michelle, and something that I really stand strongly to is I don't like to mix friends and family with business. And when I just decided to kind of stand alongside you in this meeting, I'm not doing that as like your advocate. That's something I do, work wise, but it was more so like I wanted to be there next to you, because when you're sitting in those meetings, it often feels like it's parents against all the 10, what do we have, 12 people at the
Yes.
IP meeting, I think. And it can get much larger
At least
than that.
10. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's just very intimidating, and it was really cool. The last one we had, Mel, your BCBA, who's also a friend of mine, attend, and that was really helpful. But it was really cool seeing the people that you kind of had in your village. You would send emails and just kind of like update everyone what's going on. Everyone would give their insight, and it was really cool just seeing that collaboration from everyone, because everyone had something different to offer. And the one thing that I do really love that you said there, to probably, I don't know, a few minutes ago, but you said, I am Sal's expert. And that's something that I always try to really like speak over and over to families that I work with, because I think sometimes families feel like they're so incapable. And while there's probably some truth to that, right? Like none of us are really capable of doing everything. And sometimes that's the place we're meant to be in when we feel incapable. Um, but you parents really are their child's expert. And you might not be the teacher or the behavior analyst or the educational lawyer or the educational advocate, which I would beg to differ with that with you. I think that you really are becoming the educational advocate for Sal. Um, your purpose is so important and arguably the most important role in his life. You're the one that's going to kind of you're the glue that's keeping everyone together. So yeah, it's an interesting place, like hearing your situation. It's like there's this part of your journey that you've had to just surrender and give up and hand over to others and trust God with. And, but then there's also this part where you've kind of decided, all right, like, I guess I'm on deck. I'm doing this. Um, and, I don't know if you ever felt this way, because I feel like everyone's story is so different. But did you ever kind of get to a place where you felt like, okay, I need to stop waiting for someone to help lead, and I need to be the one that's going to guide my child? Did you kind of get in that place at some point in your journey with Sal?
Yes, it was kind of in this, phase of like, okay, I need to shift what my plan was. I need to shift thinking I was going to Italy and finally appreciate Holland and appreciate where I'm at. And one of it was actually getting him diagnosed again, our church has the special needs Sunday school, and there was two moms there that were so integral in this phase, because they were just pushing me along, saying, okay, this is what you need to do next. This is the path you need to be on. Like they kind of just slowly like turned me, to say, okay, this is what you need to do for Sal to advocate for him, but also just get him the services that he needs, which is where ABA came in after we finally got him diagnosed. And just the idea of having people to just kind of run life through, like, okay, are you going through this? What did you do? Even one of my best friends, her cousin, has an autistic son, and he's a lot older. And so she's like kind of down the path with all this. And I've many times over the last few years called her, and she's been so kind to just spend hours with me on the phone, just saying, okay, this is something we dealt with, and this is what you need to do, and all that. And I don't even have any words. I'm speechless on how this has all come together and how God has completely just keep woven all of this together in our path and in our journey that I would not have been able to do by myself. But it was that level of, they gave me that enough confidence to say, okay, this is now what we have to do. And I would never have been able to do it without anybody coming alongside. So like you said, it's the perfect word of having a village and feeling like, okay, this is what I need to do next. And then them giving me what I need to do and stepping into that and saying, I'm the only one that can actually do it. They can tell me what to do, but it's really me who has to sit down and call and make the appointment, get them on the autism waiver, do all the things that I have to do, which is so overwhelming sometimes. And yet it's just like, okay, one day at a time. And what is the next step? And so that's kind of how I live my life right now.
Yeah, it seems like a lot now. I can sound like I can speak very eloquent and talk about all the different services and how long the waits are, but to live it, I'm sure it's 1,000% different than someone that kind of sees it on the side. I've cousins that have special needs and family members and friends. I work with a lot of people that have children with special needs, but I'm sure living it is 1,000% different than someone that just sees it. And for me, it's painful watching. Like, it's like, what? You have to wait how much longer for this? But then also just like, I feel like the first time you do anything, it's always so hard, and you're doing everything for the first time. Like every single thing you're doing the diagnosis you're doing for the first time, the IEP
Yeah.
you're doing for the first time. Like everything is the first, and there's gonna be so many more firsts that are going to
Right.
come. And I'm sure it's a lot, but like you said, I think it's great that your heart is to want to help others that are going to walk through a similar journey that you are walking through now. And it seems like people in your life have played that role as well. Like, I've been through it. Now I want to help you. And I think a lot of us have that heart. I feel like the special needs community in general and the autism community, people are so willing to help and give knowledge and experience
Yes.
and wisdom. And I just think it's a really, in such a hard scenario, it's a really beautiful thing to see everyone kind of working together. Um, so my question would be to you. It seems like you've really have when I see you, I see like a great deal of joy when you talk about your children, and I see you with Sal. Like I love like seeing your interactions. Like you're very accepting of who he is. You're not in this place of where you're shameful of who he is. He is who he is, and you know what his needs are. Um, what would you say? What would your advice be to someone who hasn't really gotten to that point and that where they're able to, I guess, appreciate Holland per se? Would you have any advice for someone that is trying to get there?
I mean, really, what I've said this whole time is surrender because whenever, before I was a mom, I was very uptight. I was very high strung and, I have a lot of type A in me, but meeting my husband originally allowed me to be more relaxed. But I would say, if anything, having my son has really made me kind of let go and just have an open hand to what life is and what the day is. And I can still be a very anxious person. I can still be very worried about not being able to plan for the future. But that is the number one thing I say all the time about motherhood and my journey is that I can never plan for the unpredictable times. And so why get stressed out about it and just continue to let go of my expectations for the day and just say, well, this is just what's happening. This is how my day is going to go. How can I, make it go easier? How can I kind of come alongside my son and make it easier for all of us? But it's just taught me like letting go is a lot easier than trying to control it. I mean, it's with anything in life. And so he has just taught me to be very laid back and spontaneous and flexible. And I've even learned that there's certain friendships that just aren't going to work with me because I can't make plans or my plans are going to have to change. Or, we may have planned to have a play date, but turns out the play date has to be cut short because he's having a meltdown and he's struggling today. And so thankfully God has put a lot of people in my life, that really do understand, Salinger, and they really are okay with it and they go with the flow as well. And I'm grateful for that. Finding the joy in the present moments and the little things to just make the day go easier and not stress about, there's just certain things. It's just like being a mother in general as you pick your battles. And he's taught me to really just let go of a lot. And it's really been something that I've had to just rely on the Lord for and just continue to ask him to change me, change my heart, help me to be the best mom that I can be for both my children, and just go with the flow.
Yeah. Really seems that you rely on your faith a lot for getting you through a lot of the tough times. I think that's really great. And I think that people have to find, that what helps them through those hard times. And I hope that people listening can kind of feel a little bit of hope from your story. I think you have had a lot of great things to share. And I think a big thing that when I think about, your story of, hey, welcome to Holland, different doesn't mean less. So that's a big thing that I know we say in the neurodivergent community, but it really is true. And just because things have ended up differently doesn't mean it's less beautiful, less important, less significant. less joyful. It can be all of those things and more. And I think when we let go of where we thought we were supposed to be, we can finally begin to appreciate where we are and celebrate how far we've come and truly learn to enjoy the journey along the way. So thank you so much, Michelle, for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. And I feel so honored that you would want to have me on. And if I could help or relate to any person out there, it would be worth it for me coming on.
Absolutely. We are so happy to have you, and the fact that you were willing to spend some time. And I know you didn't have your kids here today. You spent some time on the weekend away from your family. So it means a lot to us that you took the time out to join us. And we hope that you'll please join us next week, where we will be discussing other topics for how we can continue to grow together in this journey of autism. Please follow us, and subscribe to our podcast on all major platforms, including Facebook, YouTube, Spotify, Apple, and Amazon. Comment and tell us what topics you would like us to discuss on future episodes. Thanks for listening. See you next time. Bye.
Sip and stim. Sip and stim.